welcome to St. Mary's University, and welcome to what I hope will be a fun evening with conversation with Mr. Red McCombs. I am particularly pleased to welcome Mr. McCombs here this evening because, as you know, he has been so vital to San Antonio's past, its present, and today's the best day of all, we were overhearing earlier, and to its future. You know, with someone as well-known and, quite frankly, as beloved as Red, it's often said about someone like him that he needs no introduction. You certainly deserve an introduction, but as you see, I'm not going to read a 3-minute bio to you because I think you'll see as the conversation proceeds, that we're going to learn a lot about you, and you're going to tell us a lot about yourself, and my questioning will draw out your fabulous career. So that's how we're going to proceed. We've got about an hour, and let me just give you a little bit of the game plan. I will be facilitating a conversation with Red for the next 30 minutes or so, and I met with him yesterday, and I said, well, how about if we talk for 45 minutes, and then we'll take about 15 minutes of questions, and Red said, no, I'd like to take about 30 minutes of questions. So we'll talk for about 30 minutes, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask continue the conversation with Red, so be prepared. So with that, let me, in getting ready for this evening, I read Big Red, Memoirs of a Texas Entrepreneur and Philanthropist, and in that book, Red, you mentioned the enormous range of your business ventures. You say, and I'm quoting, you dabbled in automobiles, cattle, oil and gas, broadcasting, insurance, racehorses, motion pictures, real estate, NBA basketball, minor league baseball, and pro football, and now recently Formula One Grand Prix racing. So as I think about it, everywhere you drive around San Antonio, we see your auto dealerships. You're the co-founder of Clear Channel Communications, and of course you had ownership, controlling interests in the San Antonio Spurs, the Denver Nuggets, and the Minnesota Vikings. I have to begin by quibbling slightly. I would not call that dabbling.
We'll call it dibbling.
Maybe your definition of dabbling and my definition of dabbling are not the same. Would you talk a little bit about the range of your entrepreneurial activity? Would you talk about what has motivated you to engage in just the whole range of life, I would say?
I'd be happy to, and I don't want to sound unkind, but if you could please have someone change that light over there away from Buddy's head. That glare is hard.
Is that why you're not looking in my direction?
I love Buddy. I love Buddy, and he knows that for sure. I don't know why when I mentioned Buddy that I recall a story when Alex Karras, the great All-American football player from the University of Iowa, and then Hall of Fame professional player from Detroit, was speaking to a group, and this interviewer said, I just want to find out before we start something that's bothered me. I read everything I could find out about you, but I noticed that you never graduated. Is there some answer for that? Alex looked at her and said, graduated? I completed 2 terms. Truman's and Eisenhower's. So at any rate, I'm a deal junkie. I've always been entrepreneurial. My mother had problems with me in many ways. I was the oldest of 4 kids. But one job was never enough for me. I could always find a reason to do something else. And I've just always been inclined toward that. I feel like that every day is God's gift. We didn't earn it. We don't deserve it. And it was a pure gift. And it's the only real measure of life where we're all created equal, because we all get 24 hours a day. Issue is, what do we do with the 24 hours? I am not a workaholic. I don't want to leave that impression at all. I still work 5.5 hours a week, 5.5 hours, 5.5 days. I've always done that. I work only about a half day on Saturday, and I don't take work home at all, ever, never. I don't like calls at home, and in fact, everyone that works with me knows that I really don't want to be concerned at home about anything except my family, and really. My whole life has been geared that way, and my father was a 6-day-a-week worker. He didn't get that 5.5-day role that I did. He was an auto mechanic and loved what he did, was very successful at what he did because he was very good at what he did. So as far as different businesses, I'm attracted to a lot of businesses, but I'm particularly attracted to something that I see that I think could do a lot more than what it is doing. And I've never felt like there was any business, that I couldn't improve. And I never felt that there was ever any that I couldn't bring more profit to the bottom line than what it was getting, regardless of whose it was. So I've always had that confidence. Does it always work? No. It doesn't. And I'm not one from the school that just try harder, try harder, try harder. I'm sorry to disappoint some of you that have heard that all your life, and I'm not saying that that's what you shouldn't do. Maybe you should. But I think that I try to give all my ventures what I call a good shot, because I don't do anything halfway. I don't do anything partially. I don't do anything just casually. I give it my best shot. And after I give it my best shot, if I don't feel like there's a reasonable return from what I'm doing, well, then I move out. And I've sold a lot of businesses to people who do much better with them after they get them than what I did. So I will assure you that while I have them, I'll be doing better than the guy that had them before. So long answer to your question, I never saw a business that I felt like was too big at all. I disagree with the way most businesses are run. One of my greatest disappointments as a kid growing up and as a student was when I got into my teens, and through reading I found out that all businessmen were not honest. Not all businessmen worked hard. Not all businessmen could be trusted. And I was really concerned because I had held them in such esteem that I felt like that they could do all those things. And in my little town of 1,800 people, there were 16 kids in my high school graduating class. So obviously we had all of the great opportunities that schools have, having 16 graduates. But I was really concerned about what my role would be, and I've never been without a job. I've never been without income.
You mentioned briefly and talked a little bit about seeing a lot of businesses that weren't run well, and not all of your, as you point out in your book, not all of your ventures have been successful, but certainly most of them have been, and most of them have been fabulously successful. What are some of the factors that you think have been key to running businesses correctly?
Well, I think the key, of course, is you're not going to get a business that you don't have competition, because you'd have to be extremely bright and be in the technology field and all to come up with something that nobody else has. So you're going to have competition in whatever you do, and more than likely, there are several places where people can get the product or the service that you're going to offer. So then what does that leave for you? You got to do it better than the guy across the street, and that is the challenge, and that's what I recognize. I don't like a long list of managers. I think that is overdone in all businesses. I like to where there is the least numbers of people between the persons actually producing, whether they're digging a ditch or whether they're writing a paper. I want the least people between them and the head of the company. So I'm not much on a long line of managers. I think managers that have assistants too often it keeps the guy from performing the way he should, and it's not really fair to him or the assistant. Now, to all of you assistants, I hope you don't get fired tomorrow. But just show how valuable you are, and you'll never get fired.
Well, as Red knows, yesterday we got together and talked a little bit about this evening, and you mentioned that among the businesses that you've been involved in, oftentimes audiences, when you speak, want to hear about your sports involvement. Let me just throw a slow pitch down the middle, if I could, and encourage you to talk a little bit about why you got involved in running a sports enterprise.
If I could have done what I wanted to do, I would have been able to play basketball like Michael Jordan, and play football like Mike Ditka, and play baseball like Buddy. But I didn't quite have that level of talent. So being interested in sports, I was fascinated when I had the opportunity at age 25 to buy a Class B baseball team in a league that operated primarily in South Texas and a little bit over into Louisiana. It was a great experience. I would tell you that I had just as much joy out of that Class B baseball team as I did 22 years in the NBA or 7 years in the NFL. I think that the sports are a big part of every community. It is, I think, the biggest item in making everyone a part of the picture, because the sports team really belongs to everyone, and we all support our sports teams. We may have different feelings on other subjects, other areas of life, but we all get together and support our sports teams. That in itself creates a lot of energy in any area. In our little town, if we were playing in town, all the stores closed at 5:30, and everybody went over to the football field or the baseball field. We didn't play basketball because we thought that was for sissies. Sorry, buddy. And maybe also because we couldn't play. But I just feel like that is really so significant. And frankly, the reason we brought the Spurs here was not because I have such a great feeling toward sports, but when we were doing the World's Fair in '68, we were not recognized by the Fortune 500 companies in America at all. We didn't have a low rating with them. We had no rating. It was as if we did not exist. And it was almost scary to find out what the people who make the big decisions really think about you. And what they really thought about us was that we were just a little dusty town and had no significance. And it was quite, really scary to me. And at the same time, I noticed that in the mid-'60s, America was discovering sports on television, and it was growing by leaps and bounds. And I felt like if we could find a way to get us a major league sports team, we would be recognized. And of course we were. And that's why the Spurs have done everything I ever expected they would do. We were mentioned in the same light as Los Angeles and New York and Philadelphia and our great markets. And although I love sports, most people didn't ever understand why I really would push so hard, because it has done more for San Antonio than any other one single thing that's ever happened here.
Let me stay on sports, but change the focus a little bit. I first came to know about you during the years that I lived in Minnesota, and you owned the Minnesota Vikings from 1998 to 2005, and in your book you express a lot of frustration over those years because state and local governor really failed to push forward something that you thought was essential. I think the title of your little subchapter is, great team, bad stadium, and you were looking for a significant investment by the state of Minnesota and probably the counties and the city to build a new football stadium for the Minnesota Vikings. That's become a very controversial subject, the role of government in supporting professional sports.
There's no question, and that's not just so in Minnesota. It's so in San Antonio. It's so in every city in America. There is a strong outcry when you take public money and it accrues to the benefit to the citizens who don't have a clear picture of what is really going on here. But when it accrues to athletes who make a lot of money, to owners who have a lot of money, it is an easy argument for people to say, we got broken streets and broken water lines and broken everything else. Why are we doing this? The bottom line is that the model has been tried enough to where in cities all across America it has never failed. And it is always added to the revenues of a city, not taken from the revenues of a city. So it's nothing more than an investment by the citizens. They get repaid many times over. And for the leaders of any city to think that they're supporting their citizens by staying out of major league sports, they will be behind today and they'll be behind tomorrow. And they'll always be behind. That's not the way the world works. The formulas are fairly simple, and the gain is to all the citizens, not to the owner. And I could not get that done in Minnesota. And the reason I couldn't, quite frankly, and the governor was very frank, he told me at first if I'd wait a couple of years, he'd help me. And that was fine. And then wait another year, and wait another year. And then I couldn't quite figure it out. And finally, when I said, I'm not going to wait anymore, but I wish you'd be honest with me. Why all this change that you were going to help me, and now you're not. And quite frankly, you have to have the leader's support, because to get the citizens to support, if your leaders are not going to support it, well, it's the citizens have got an easy way out. They just back off, and they don't get involved. So you have to have your leaders, the governors, the mayors, etc. So I said, well, why the change? He said, well, I know that you're doing very well. And I said, yes, I'm doing very well. I'm in the top half of the league insofar as revenue for my club at the bottom line. We've made a lot of money here, but this is going to be short-lived. It was so dead when I got there that almost anyone could have set off a firecracker and made it better. So when I got there, my very first day, I called my staff together, the department heads, and I said, in 12 days, we've got a preseason game. And I said, whatever your role is in the company, just ignore that, because everyone, all hands on deck, selling tickets is all we're talking about. So to the vice president of marketing, what is your plan for selling out this first game? And he looked a little bit astonished. He said, I'm sorry, Mr. McCombs, but we don't have any plan to sell out this exhibition game, because we've never sold out an exhibition game. And I said, so what is your plan? He said, well, we've got a good draw on the team we're playing. So in our 65,000 seat stadium, I think we'll have a really good crowd. I think we'll have around 35,000 people. And he said, for an exhibition game, that's a big crowd in Minnesota, as you will find out. And I said, well, I'm not doing this to embarrass you, but you really don't belong in this meeting. Go clean your desk out and come see me tomorrow afternoon, and we'll settle up. And he looked astonished. I said, well, I'm serious, because you don't understand what I'm talking about. So go clean your desk out. And so the rest of the department heads were astonished. And I said, let's cover a couple of things here. Number one, I hate hearing people in professional sports talk about exhibition games. I said, the Vikings, they got 100 players out there giving their hearts to try to make this team. And only 50 of them are going to survive. 50 of them are not going to have a job in 6 weeks. And there's not a lower league to go to, you're through. You go back to teaching school or working at the bank or selling cars or whatever you do. So to say that this is an exhibition is not fair to the public. It's certainly not fair to the players. This is a preseason game with everything on the line. And if you will tell your fans what it's about and what's involved here and why it's so important that these 6 guys that are trying to be your left tackle and only 2 of them are going to get to stay, you can promote it, you can make it work. It's not that difficult. I've always made sports work everywhere, including starting here when we had no fans. But we got them pretty damn quick, I will tell you. So thanks to all of you. But at any rate, I said, thinking back to, you're going to start your preseason games in late fall, and then every city has the United Way coming up in the late fall. And I said, who is handling the United Way campaign? No one knew. So I asked a staff person to go find out. It was a local banker. And I said, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to see, when I called him, I said, can I come over and see you? He said, Mr. McCombs, I haven't met you, of course, but he said, you've been all over the news. Surely you got more things to do than come see me. I said, no, I don't have anything more important. They come to see. I said, can I come see you in the next 30 minutes? And he said, well, certainly. I'll be glad to meet you. So then I turned to the rest of the staff and I said, okay, you get together, select who's going to be your leader, write the plan on the board, and go to work on it. Number one, never hear the word again, exhibition, ever. Number two, I will take, it looks to me then we're going to be 30,000 people short, according to our former VP. You, all the staff, you take responsibility for selling 15,000 tickets. I will personally sell 15,000. They're stunned. And I said, now let's go on to the next subject. And so I go over and meet with the banker, and he said, I don't know whether you realize it or not, but I am your biggest ticket purchaser because I am the correspondent bank that handles all the banks in Minnesota. And I said, well, thank you for that. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to buy, how many agencies do you have in the Twin Cities? He said, well, we're very fortunate. We have 118. And I said, I know you have one of the best United Way programs in the country because we copied you and tried to do some of the things that San Antonio that you're doing here. So I said, I need your help. I said, I've got the sorriest stadium in the league, and everybody knows it, including all the fans here. But I said, we're going to start by selling out that season. And he said, for an exhibition game? I said, excuse me, sir. Any rate, I said, here's the deal. I said, I'm not going to cheapen the tickets, and I don't want you to go sell them to a bunch of company where people are not coming. We want a body in every seat. We want the bodies there. And you divide them up amongst your agencies. I want you to take 15,000 and get them sold. And I said, obviously you only have 10 or 11 days to get it done. I said, you get that done, we'll get 15,000 more over at the place, and we'll have a big first in Minnesota. We'll sell out a preseason game, which the people here have never believed could happen. We'll do it on the very first game. He said, God, I believe you are serious. And I said, I am, and we can do it. We'll do it easy. And I said, what we'll do also is I'm going to give you that game for United Way. I said, you can have the pregame, you can have the halftime, and you can have the end. I said, and then I'll give you at the halftime, I'll introduce you as the head of United Way, and I'll thank the fans for coming out, my first time to visit with them. And I'm going to kick off the campaign by giving a $50,000 personal gift to your campaign. And I said, that is not the Vikings gift. I'll give you that personally. And then we'll do our gift in the company. At any rate, we had standing room only, sold out, and for the 7 years I was there, we never put on a product of any kind, including training camp. I said, you can't charge for training camp. And I said, go back and take a picture. You won't remember it, because we will. At any rate, we never put on a program. We wanted to act like professionals. We wanted to give the people a good ride for their money. And I've never had trouble selling out sporting events, because the people will pay if the event's handled right. So anyway, we were very fortunate there. We sold out all 7 years, every product we ever had, with smoke and mirrors, the whole bit. And we always were in the top half of the league in profit, with the lowest stadium facility income there. We're taking too much time on this, but it's not easy to just say that we didn't have the right kind of program. Yeah, people just have to understand it. But you asked that question. I'll try not to be so long-winded.
Let's talk a little bit about San Antonio's future. You've been so vital to the huge progress at San Antonio.
Well, we've had a lot of good things working for us, and we've had a lot of advantages. And now we're losing some of those advantages. We've had the best environment for properties for people to come in here. We've had the lowest utility price, and we're suddenly escalating utility prices out of sight. We're going to lose a lot of the edge that we had. However, having had that edge, that's gained us so much that we'll have a running start. I don't say, when they say, well, what's happened to San Antonio that these last 20 years? I said, well, 20 years ago, we never got invited. We never saw an invitation. Now we get invited to dinner, but we're still not always invited to the dance. So we're making progress. But getting new jobs and getting people to come in and invest money in your community is not the easiest thing in the world to pull off. We're losing a lot of those advantages. We're losing them very quickly. The other thing is that we have too many kids and our biggest problem are not finishing high school. And we don't have to have kids with college degrees, but with the technology world we live in today, we've got to have kids at least understand the fundamentals of the basic of technology. And without that, we're dead. We're not going to have the employment here that new companies need. And I don't care what the company is now. You've got to be able to use tech manuals and information manuals that involve the use of electronics. And if you don't have a basic knowledge of that, well then we can't supply the workforce. If you do have a basic knowledge for that, even without a college degree, you need at least a couple of years of study in those areas. And so, how are we going to pull this off? We're going to have to get busy, but we're not going to have some of the advantages that we had before.
Well, let me ask one more question, and then we'll open it up. In all the contracts that you've entered into over the years, all the deals that you've done, you mentioned in your book you've entered into only one lifetime contract with your wife Charlene of 62 years.
Right, and
talk about the role that
if
she's
I don't
played
get my
in your
business straightened out a little, that may be over tonight. But we're very fortunate in San Antonio to have a lot of advantages. Like anything else, you play to your advantages and don't spend your time crying about your disadvantages. So I want to close by giving you just a tidbit of a formula that is simple, but it's not easy. I believe that life is every day a game of win or loss. And I think that in every sense that is really what the world is all about. So I look at everything that I do when the day is over, and then in my own mind evaluate, was I a winner or was I a loser? So that is what is critical. If people say, well, why would winning be so important? Because that will bring you the happiness and the success that God intended for you to have. And so how do you get to the point where you expect to win? And that's what everyone that works around me will tell you real quickly. Red will expect you to win. And I don't get interested, buddy, when somebody tells me, well, I'm different. I want to win. Tell me who doesn't want to win. That's a given. But who expects to win? Who even gives it a thought about, is this really a win or lose situation? And I can tell you that it is a win or lose. And you need to win. And you need to set goals for every day, and you need to win. So how do you win? First, you got to prepare. Secondly, you have to execute. Preparation is not easy. Execution is not easy. One without the other won't work. You've got to prepare, and you've got to execute. And it's no different really than if you got a tough subject and you're prepared for it, you know how to execute, you don't worry about the test. If you're not prepared, you don't execute, you're just guessing, you hope you get through. So I would just say to all of you, this is not easy to do, but it's something that it's pretty simple. It's something that I would suggest that you give it a try and see if you make it work for you, because it will.
Thank you. You ready for some questions from the audience? Yeah.
Well, I was very fortunate because I was born to a loving, caring, sharing family with very limited resources, but certainly a big concern for those who had less than they had. And I saw my dad, who earned $25 a week all the time I was growing up, and he would come home every Saturday night, and we'd all gather around the kitchen table, and my mom would open that pay envelope, and out would come $24.75. So she would take $2.50, put it in another envelope, and that was marked for the First Baptist Church. So sharing was a part of life. I didn't have to learn it. It goes against, if you look at it one way, Harvey, you're told to work hard, do well, earn money, and then give it away. Well, that's quite a contrast. So it's not a natural thing for people until they can get over that line that giving is joyful, until you can get past that and get over to this, that when you give, what you're giving is really receiving, because giving is joyful, and that is what that's what I think people miss, and it's a big part of their life. We've I saw my parents take in other people's kids, keep them for months when there were no social services when I was born in 1927. But we took care of our neighbors. They took care of us. And it was a very caring society. In little towns where there were no jobs, the guy helped out the other guy. And so it's something that universities and all schools should be faulted at. I was fortunate enough to attend 4 different colleges and universities. I never had any one of them ever mention anything about philanthropy. I never had any one of them even talk to me about giving. When I'd get out of school, I'd get a note from the ex-Students Association. It was mimeographed saying you can join for $5 or whatever. We need to teach the people around us, because you can't assume that every kid is born into those circumstances that I was born in. And we need to teach the kids around us that there is some joy in sharing. And we can do it at all levels.
Thank you.
Let me say this, Harvey. There's nothing new. We'd done it forever. And it really didn't get much attention until we started putting zeros behind it. And when you start adding zeros, well, then you get a lot of attention. I made a gift to a small university north of here, and it was for a great purpose. And Charlie and I were delighted to do it. And a reporter afterwards said, well, just really, why are you doing this? And I said, because the joy of giving is a joy that you can't get any other way. And from that, I got cards and letters, and I even had people call and say, can I come visit with you? And that created a lot of gifts for other people, particularly people that normally wait until they pass on and let somebody read their will and they see what they're going to do with what they have left. You know, I tell everyone, don't wait at all. There's no joy in that at all. The joy is in giving and seeing the results of it, and it is a pure joy. Let me just share one question that'll come close to all of you here. This being a Catholic university, many years ago, Archbishop Flores had a program here in the middle Sunday in December before Christmas, and it was called Televangel, Telethon Navideño. Thank you. I really wasn't, I hadn't heard anything much about it, but I noticed in one Monday paper a little small story about the Telethon Navideño from station KWX had to run for 10 hours on Sunday, and they'd taken in and they mentioned the amount of money. And I was stunned because it was not very much. So I called the Archbishop, whom I love dearly, worked with him on a lot of different projects. I said, Archbishop, I see you had your Telethon Navideño, and I was a little concerned that you didn't raise much money. Y'all who know him know what a sweet, tender man he is. And he said, oh, Red, we had such a great day. People were so generous. And I said, well, fine, if you were happy with it. I said, frankly, if you would like for me to, if you'll remind me and call me next year 2 or 3 weeks before it takes off, I will privately go raise a lot more money from the businesses than what you got. And he said, well, that is so thoughtful. He said, why don't you just wait a few days, I'll come by your office and visit with you. So when he came by, he said, Red, that was such a generous and great thought. But he said, first, I want to share with you why I do this. He said, I really don't do this to raise money. He said, now, we like to get the money. We always can use all of it and then more. He said, the reason that I ask the people to come and bring their change and their dollar bills is that I want the poor to have the joy of giving to the poorer. And the hair just turned on my neck. I said, oh my God, Archbishop, I said, your goals are they're so much purer than mine. I said, you just keep on doing it your way. Being the smart Archbishop that he was, he said, no, no. He said, I think we can do both. So I did that with him for about 15 years. And of course it has to be in, the whole program's in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, and we didn't have any trouble whatsoever. We raised a lot of money, had a lot of fun. One more story about that. We didn't have any rehearsal. The station manager was the one that put everything together. He got the dancers and the mariachi bands and all this and all. And our goal was to show up at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning and work 10 hours. So we had our little rehearsal, went through a couple of things, and at the end the Archbishop said, by the way, I will not be here when the show goes on the air. I've got to be in Eagle Pass, equipment that I had for a long time. And he said, I will be there in the early afternoon. And okay, fine. He said, we'll have someone from the diocese there to open the show and announce why I'm not there. So I go in my usual way. It's like coming over here tonight. I get here just about 2 minutes before I'm supposed to be on the air, so to speak. So I get there about 10 minutes. Figure I got plenty of time. Grabbing around, jacking around with the people there. I notice the clock is 5 minutes till, and I notice there's nobody with a collar. Well, I look around. There is nobody with a collar. So I called the program director over, and I said, where is the priest that's going to open and bless the event? I don't know. I don't know. And here's 2 minutes till. And people, who are directing the thing up in the booths, when that clock hits, you're on. So I said to the station manager, who was Hispanic, I said, Raul, you have to announce and tell him the Archbishop will be a little late, but he'll be here, and you give a little blessing. Oh, no, not me. But this time, we're 1 minute till. I said, I'll do it. So we go on the air. I tell them why the Archbishop's not there. And I said, I want you to all join me in a prayer, and let's ask God to bless us as we get through this day, and ask him to show his blessings on us. And so I went through, I didn't think any more about it. So when the Archbishop shows up about 3 hours later, we have a little break, and he says, I was in my hotel room when you did the blessing. I said, I thought he was going to compliment me and tell me how great it was. I said, well, Archbishop, I don't know what happened, but there was no priest here. Yes, I'm afraid we forgot that. I said, well, I was happy to bless it. He said, that's what I want to talk to you about. He said, if you start giving blessings, I'm going to start selling cars. He was a sweet man, and I loved working with him a lot. I'm afraid that the mayor's program is not going to be quite what he thinks it's going to be. On the other hand, I support it. If he thinks that that's something that will work, that he wants to support it, well, that's fine. I don't think that's the answer. I think we'll get the answer in every school, every district. The districts have got the people who can do it, and have them accountable, and we get on with it. This idea of not educating these students is not the students' fault. This is the administrators and the people who run our schools. And God bless all of them, but I'm just telling you, they're not getting the job done. These kids learn. They want to learn. You can go to any video store in town and find out how smart they are. And we owe it to them. That's our challenge. But I don't. But like my daughter, who's really a purist of all, would say to me, Dad, why are you going to sign the letter supporting this program when you're telling me that you doubt that it'll work? I said, because the mayor really believes in it. He's got a lot of other people who believe in it. I'm not an obstructionist. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. Let him go ahead and do it. But I'm afraid that the results you're looking for are not going to be there. Well, I'm very optimistic about the economy because I'm optimistic about the American people. Now, let's take a look here. This is not a good situation that we got ourselves in. Am I going to gripe and mope around for the next 4 years because I think that we have a president that is not creating the right kind of policies? No. I'm going to try to support him and do the best I can to see that we make the best out of what we have to work with. I'm saying there's a better way to do it. Now, the people have spoken, the majority rules, that's fine. I'm going to do the best I can, and I will do very well, I will assure you. But the idea of who's going to get it perfect, well, I doubt that anybody's going to do that. But I think there are better ways to do things. So, in the meantime, though, I am glass is half full kind of person. And I know that the news cycles can go 24 hours. And if people who don't work want to listen to them all day, then I guess, maybe they'll have some influence on them. But it's like when I was picking and choosing friends and all, my mother said one time, she said, "You seem to be running around with those boys that have got cars." I said, "Well, they also have money." But at any rate, we won't get into all that. Yeah. Well, the first thing I do, we get a lot of calls on that, as you can imagine, because I've made these statements over and over a lot of times. I say, send me a business plan that you've written yourself or that you endorse, and send me a business plan that is no more than 3 pages. Give me a chance to look at it, and I'll give you a call. If I see anything there that I think fits, well, I'll call you and tell you, let's get together. If I don't, I'll call you. I'll say, I'm sorry, but I just don't believe what you got there is workable. Well, why won't it work? Well, I will tell you 1 or 2 things, but basically I think you're missing in this, you're missing in that. And then, of course, the person wants to argue with you. It's your time. You're trying to be helpful. But most people that ask for help and you tell them something that they don't want to hear, all they want to do is argue with you. Hey, we're not going to all get it right. We're not going to all get it called just right. But we got to step up, take a good shot at it. And if the other side gets more votes, fine. I'll go help you. Now, I've got friends that say, I can't believe you're doing this or doing that. Hey, come on. This is what we've got. Let's make it better. We can't make it better from the outside. Let's make it better from the inside. And I firmly believe that. Okay, my time is up. You've given me the greatest gift that anyone could ever give. That is your time. There'll nothing ever, the last breath you draw, if you had a chance to say, if God looked down on you and said, what would you like? You'd say, more time. Well, that's kind of the way life is. So keep it in mind every day. Spend your time wisely. Take care of your mother. Kiss your father. Kick your cousin.
Thank you, Red.